It's coming right now. Shut the damn hell up, dogs!
Welcome to the first ever episode of Jeep Talk.
Jeep Talk.
Jeep Talk.
Jeep Talk.
Jeep Talk.
Today
on Jeep Talk, explosions.
We're gonna...
Wait, explosions, you hear them? No, there's gonna be explosions.
Alright, whatever.
So, we decided, just like this YouTube channel, after our few surveys, we're gonna have ourselves a time damn near like a podcast, but less shitty because it'll be more amusing.
But the dogs won't stop, so...
Mucking about. It's mostly Bama, by most living in Alabama.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Jeep stuff, and today our topic, or tonight I should say, is going to be axles. Alright?
Well, look at specific with axles. There's a lot of different areas we could talk about. We could talk about tons, we could talk about 44s, we could talk about 30s, we could talk about your shitty axles and your JLs. Today, we're going to talk about... Shut the fuck up! Today, we're going to talk about, should you build a 30
or buy a 44? Actually, funny enough, that worked out pretty good because you're building a 30 and I have a 44 I bought.
That's actually, yeah.
That worked out
and
good.
You were debating on building your 30 or... Alright, so...
Explosions! Anyway, building a 30 or buying a 44. Should we hold the dogs?
Please hold.
So,
Let's try this again. Now we're gonna just hold them. That way they don't fucking bark.
Buttons doesn't bark.
Yeah, he fucking does.
Only when it's
But anyway,
sexy.
we're not gonna go on dogs today. We're going on axles.
German
So
Shepherd versus Corgi. What should you buy?
now, here's the problem I'm running into with building my 30. The second you start getting above 488s, your pinion starts getting pretty small. I'm at 488s right now. I have a rear locker. I trust my front. Just
How much do you trust it?
what?
How much do you trust it?
I trust my front axle. Geared it. That's about it for now. Not really in the budget to get a 44. So I'm debating on if I should throw a locker in the front and throw some chromollies in it. That'll probably...
From experience from one of our coworkers, that actually could be a fairly sustainable package.
Yes. So one of our coworkers actually has 37s.
37s. Methods bead locks.
So he's got
locked.
He's got bead locks. He's got front and rear ARBs.
Yep.
Front and rear ARBs. He's done some decent trails.
Some pretty severe trails in that thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's done Holy Cross. He's done 90% of Moab. It's a two-door, not stretched. Is he on coilovers?
Yes. King's
coilovers.
very badly set up, but he has coilovers.
And like me, he's only broken a rear axle. He's broken an axle shaft in a 44. That's what I did, obviously, in previous video.
Which I wish we had footage of because the amount of force in which applied to that front axle, I'm amazed you didn't break it right at the stop shaft at the U-joint. It's
very true. Now, that's another thing I'm kind of thinking is that if I do a locker in the front and chromollys, what would break? It is trussed very well. Very good welds on it.
C gussets.
C gussets as well. Diff cover. I don't have anything crazy ball joints wise. I think I just have...
they're just Dana Spicers, aren't they?
Dana Spicers.
Which aren't bad ball joints by any means.
No.
Dana Spicer. I mean, I'd take that over like an Allo USA. I think it's a good ball joint.
Yeah. Reliable. It's factory quality.
We could have a whole thing about ball joints. I got
sure, but sorry, back to axles. So, yeah, I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, do I throw a locker in it? I know it increases the value when I want to resell it.
Of the axle or the vehicle?
The axle. Because I'm not selling the vehicle anytime soon. So, if I was to eventually get a 44 for the front, which is ultimately what I'm going for, because I'll go to 40s at some point, because I don't want to run 40s on a Dana30, because that'll just, it's
tons. You need
not
tons.
good. We're not talking about tons. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Now, Jonathan's point of view. Bama.
Don't eat the trash.
Jonathan's point of view.
So here is my thought and the consideration to build a 30 over buying a 44. Now, I've thought about this a lot. I've had countless Jeeps. You know what? I've never owned a Jeep with a 44 in the front. And here I am like, you need to have a 44 in the front.
Well, yeah, you just bought it.
Yes.
Now, be here Friday.
Friday, it'll be here. It's Wednesday.
I'll give you a little install video on that too.
Easy peasy, fucking plug and play. It's great. That's a perk of a 44 if we ever talk about 60s.
Unless this is a JL, then you need a taser.
That's
to get rid of the axle disconnect.
Which will be here tomorrow.
Then you won't be able to put in 4-wheel drive. It just won't let you.
Oh yeah, it's gonna have a heart attack anyway. Here's my thought. I price out on my JL. My JL is a Sport S. We did the video of the walk around. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's just me blabbing on for a grip as we are today. But I priced out building, and sorry, it's a Dana 186. I'm gonna get lost semantics. It's a Dana 186, right? Which I don't think is a good axle. It's like a JK30 for the sake of the disconnect and the two-piece axle shaft. So my plan was to build that axle, was to do Yukon chromoly shafts, which are the one piece on the passenger side, I delete that, or RCVs, which are both over $1,000 in just axle shafts. I was also gonna do a truss, an Arctic truss. They make a badass truss for the Dana 186. Between parts and labor, you're probably $700 to $1,000 just in parts and labor to do that. I'm gonna gear it. I'm gonna do a locker. And you're gonna pay somebody to do that. Like Matt obviously doesn't because he's capable, but I'm just lazy. I'm not gonna do that.
So he pays me, and he doesn't want to pay me.
Okay.
Fair bet.
Fair bet. But I tell you what, after all is said and done, in just parts, and I'm biased, we're not gonna talk about why I'm biased. We have certain pricing because of what we do. But for us personally, well for me personally, the difference between getting all the parts to build a Dana 186 I have,
which is hard by itself, getting the parts alone, because nobody does it.
No one does it. There's no
demand.
There's not a good amount of feedback from the community on JLs on 186 is what they can actually do. There's not a whole lot of trust in what they can do after they've been built. So you can kind of go off like what a Dana30 can do in a JK, but it's not applicable. So it was $1,000 difference between buying a Ultimate 44 or building my Dana 186 in just parts. Obviously, labor to build the 186 will be a lot more because we're actually building it. First, an Ultimate 44, in which it's a basic plug-and-play operation, and even after that, I'm in a way stronger slate. I'm going to end up with chromolyes, 1410 U-joints, E-locker, 48s, with a diff cover, plug-and-play, no axle disconnect tubing. Like, it's a potent package. Saying that, I think, personally, in a JL, buying an Ultimate 44 makes complete sense. Wait, not done. But in a TJ or a JK, I can almost justify building a 30 for a couple reasons. Number one, you have it, which is always a good thing. Number two, parts are everywhere. If you were to shatter, I mean, a JK was a little bit different, but like a TJ, you have a plethora of Dana 30s out there, XJs and ZJs.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get an XJ30, which is high pinion, which has a stronger pinion gear to it, runs on the correct side.
Yep.
You can do axle shaft upgrades and a lock upgrade to make that a 30 spline. You can tube it, truss it. You can make a pretty sweet Dana 30 for a TJ. JKs, they come with it, they're wide, the housings are fairly strong if they're taken care of. You can build a fairly good 30. But I would personally never truly wheel it above a 37-inch tire. So if you have any ambition to go to a 40 at some point, and that's one thing that people should do, if you're gonna build a Jeep, build it to what you want to do with it as an end goal. Don't make chapters to what you're trying to achieve.
Which is what I did and learned the hard way that it's not the right way to do it.
If you want to do your Jeep, like you have this goal of what your Jeep looks like, this tire size, this lift, capable of doing these trails, and this is what this vehicle will be as a standard, as your goal. You need to build that. Don't build something that's subpar to just throw it away.
And we totally understand, because I've been in the situation where like when I first got the Jeep, I loved it. I wanted to lift it. First thing I wanted to do was throw 35s on it and lift it. So what did I do? I got a rough country kit, 2.5-inch coils with shocks all the way around. Didn't even come with any track bar relocations or adjustables. Crappy shocks. I mean, it was literally like driving an old Cadillac down the road. Don't get me wrong, I loved it at the time.
I don't know what it was capable of. I mean, you didn't know what to be
very
at
true.
judgment level. What it should
I also wasn't in the position I'm at now. With the experience I have in working and with the knowledge I had in the Jeep world. So at the time, you know, it's a quick build. I mean, honestly, I bought separate sway bar end links, front and rear, and it cost me under $300. So when you're looking at it at the time, yeah, it's awesome. You know, $300, you're getting a 2.5-inch lift. You can fit 35s, and technically you can fit 37s without a problem.
Not to cut you off, but that's the instant gratification of building a 30, is that you can buy something to make it better right away versus spending that huge chunk of change to get you something that's actually vastly superior in every single way. That is why people build 30s more than anything else, because they have it and they can buy a small thing versus buying something huge.
Yes, and you can also build what's underneath your vehicle.
Correct.
So it's instead of, you know, ultimately, I don't really have anything done to my front other than a truss. The truss cost me, what, $50?
Yes.
Retails about $100. So the truss, and that's all I have, and a front diff cover, but that's it.
Gears.
And gears, and install kit.
And everything else is bone stock.
Everything, the shafts are stock, the U-joints are stock.
It's an open diff still.
Open diff. So I don't really have much into it. So ultimately, if I wanted to do a locker and chromoly shafts, about $1,000. Now in a JK, $1,000. Now going on the completely other side, the JL side, there's an axle disconnect. So it's a completely different situation. Plus the JK has been around for so much longer. There's so much more demand for building the 30 because it's there, it's underneath, it's cheaper than having to put a 44.
Thousands of Dana30s that run big tires.
Yes, 100%. Even our boss.
Don't get into it, but yes.
Ran. He doesn't really wheel very often.
Occasionally one track.
But he ran 40s on his Dana30. Didn't wheel it. It held.
That's one thing.
So it's also a different situation as what you want to do with it. Like if you're going to wheel it, you kind of have to weigh your situation on how much you want to put into the 30, but then also keep in the back of your mind, okay, it could bend, it could break, everything could just shit the bed. But then if you save up the extra money, wait a little extra longer, wait another wheeling season, and put that money into a 44, you have that much more reliability. Now, the aftermarket's also there for the 44 for the front, because the Rubicons come with 44s for the front.
And there's also so many housings out there that will accept every bit of an internal from a Rubicon 44.
Yes.
And Rubicon JK44 internals are badass. The ring gear is huge. There's so much support for it that you can get huge extra shafts. You can go 35 spine on the front.
Yes.
You can go gold pace or GT.
It comes stock with 32 spine.
30.
Thomas's is 32s.
Sure.
Yes. His stock 32 and he wants to go up to the 35.
You can do 35.
One of our
if you don't have
my employees,
buddies.
Buddies.
But yeah. So anyway, yeah, the 30 in a JK is a completely buildable platform. And and one thing I think that people need to realize is that, hey, what can this axle handle? That is going to completely vary by what you do with this vehicle.
It also depends on how you wheel. Now,
manual, automatic, 3.8, 3.6, 4-door, 2-door.
That also has to be thrown into the factor.
Did you poo that this morning? Did you not?
So when I came out here, I was whiskey throttle, because that's all it was in New York. I'm from New York, born and raised.
But that means mud.
That's all it was. Mud, some rock, but most of the rock was covered in mud, covered in moss, covered in grass. So it was throttle through everything. You need the wheel speed. You need to get through it. I think the first time I went wheeling out here, I went with everybody from work, all our friends, and I learned right away. The next thing I bought was gears, because it's a completely different game. when you're in Colorado and Moab and somewhere where you're rock crawling and you need that low tire speed. Like right now in first gear, 4-wheel drive low, I only have a 2-to-1 because it's the Sahara. I can do 1 mile an hour. That's what my speedo reads at. It's 1 mile an hour. And what was it? A couple days ago when we went camping, we did a quick up through Pennsylvania Gulch.
Previous video.
And there was one section where I definitely could have used lower gear.
513s, I think, would have been a better choice.
Yes, but 513s, and this is where I said earlier, the pinion gets really small.
It does in a 44 too, though.
Not as small in a
Not
44
small.
because a 44 is bigger.
It's a bigger diff.
Yes, which means that the pinion would be bigger.
Yes.
So that's the con, in my opinion, of building a 30 is that really, if you want the reliability, the highest you can really go is 488s, in my opinion. Before you start getting sketchy into shearing ring gears and shearing pinion gears. So it's...
Yeah. My personal opinion, if I was just running down the Jeep lineup, right, let's talk about every true Wrangler. YJ's high pinion 30.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they don't have any power, so you're going to be pretty hard to break it. 35s, yeah, you could build a really reliable YJ on 35s if you put all the parts into it.
Most people that have a YJ throw like a fucking LS in it. So that completely changes the situation. How many YJs or TJs have you seen with a fucking LS? They all do it. Everybody does it. Or they throw some V8
There
in
is
it.
the cheap people like me that had a TJ, and then there's people that have money. There's no middle ground.
No.
If you... Okay, that's fair because I can't make a point to that. Because you have money, you can build it. If you don't, then you have... Okay.
Yeah.
But personally, if I had a
axle.
stock motor on a TJ or a YJ, frankly, high pinion 30, chromoly, gear locket, 35s max, you're good.
Yep.
JK 37's built. I have all the confidence in the world to hold up. And one thing you will get, because its lack of ring gear size, is more ground clearance. That is a fact. My 186, it's higher than our manager's 44. I'm on 37s, he's on 40s. Because it's a small pumpkin. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something...
It's just something to consider. It is
but
a
it's,
smaller pumpkin.
obviously it is a 30, so it's not as strong as a 44. But when you get the 44,
consequence,
you have to get the bigger tire size to bring the axle back up.
To clear the diff housing, yes, you need to have more tire.
Yes.
I mean, you get into tons, and yes, that is... I mean, you run a 60.
Tons is a different situation. It's a different
fucking
ballgame.
That's another video.
Yeah.
So I concur. That'd be good. JK 37's built good. On the JL.
Well, hold on. Let's come to the conclusion on the JK.
What would you say? I say 37's built.
I think if you're going to do 37s and that's going to be your max goal, stick with the 30.
You're fine.
You can lock it. You could do some gears in it. Chromoles.
You have the axle.
You'll have it. You'll be good.
If you break apart, they'll be readily available.
Oh, yeah, easily. And you can get them dirt cheap because...
That is also one big thing for a 30, is if you fail on a 30, there's another 30 probably down the street.
Yes.
That is
very easy to find.
Very replaceable, easy to find part and complete housing.
Yes.
If necessary.
Okay, so we both agree on that.
44s from JKs, or God forbid, a 44 from a Rubicon TJ, you're talking money.
Yes.
Talking money.
All right, so JK,
unnecessary money.
If you're maxing out at 37s, stick with the 30.
If that's your goal, if that's what's good, your end goal is 37s, like that is what you're going for, do a 30.
If you want to go 40s, definitely go with a 44.
Or a 60.
Go with a 44.
Now on the JL.
JL is a completely different situation, so go ahead, Jonathan. You have more experience with this than I do. And I know I am in the repair side, I'm in the mechanic side, and we don't build and gear as many JLs
We're doing more and more though. We are doing more and more JLs.
Yes, recently we have doing more and more, but originally we weren't because the price tag.
Yeah.
I mean,
people are buying these
you get a
vehicles.
JL, you get a base JL, you're spending $35-40. With some
easy.
Stuff that you want in it. You get a Rubicon, you're in the mid-40s.
Easy. 50s, 60s.
60s. So the people that spend the money don't want to...
They don't have any more money.
Yeah, either don't have any more money, don't want to risk breaking anything, or
it's a comfortable vehicle and they just want to drive out in it.
Yep. And it's like basically a luxury. It's a
super nice.
more off-roading Grand Cherokee.
Definitely is. I like that. Think about it, though. It's very nice inside. Definitely is. Personally, there is not enough evidence to where I can say you could run a big tire on a 186. There is not. Nobody's
done it.
Exactly. Like you can go on YouTube and watch Cherokees with high pinion 30s on 35s get rock bounced up some trail in Alabama or Pennsylvania. They held together. Who cares?
Yeah. But then I'll show you the end result in the alignment rack where it's fucking.
But hell, it's still turned the tires, right?
Yeah.
But you just know it's like, okay, well that did the thing. There is, and this is not only for the 186 but also the 210 on the front on a Rubicon or a JT. There is evidence. There's been a couple of them that have split at the axle disconnect.
Yes.
They have failed.
And you showed me pictures. If you want to look it up, look up a axle disconnect braking, and you can see right with the spot weld. It goes cracks right on the bottom and right across the top.
And it seems to be. I haven't seen it happen. No, I have. There's one on 37s that broke there. God knows what they were doing, but it still broke. Versus a JK. A JK would just bend. It wouldn't break. You would still drive home on a JK. It probably starts seeping from where the tubes get pushed into the housing. And
I think the tube would spin.
Probably spin a tube, saw a leak in there, but it would drive home.
We had one that came in the other day that had that.
It did.
A couple weeks ago.
But you'd still make it home versus that axle would not. No. So, for that sake,
wouldn't even drive.
And the lack of experience and knowledge and what we know of what the Dana 186 is actually capable of, I say 35s built. Comfortable.
On a Dana30.
Like my front.
JL.
On a JL.
I wouldn't. If you want to wheel it hard.
I'm talking about like you bought this thing like I did, and you're rocking 37s, you gear that, you lock it, everything like that. Like just sake of like peace of mind to not know about that failure, the disconnect, the split in the tube, everything else, like truss, lock, gear, everything like that. I'd feel really safe on 35s. 37s, I'm just like, I would just have this, I know if it'd be truss, everything would be stronger, but I'd always have this back in my mind.
Yeah, you can't trust.
These are failable items.
So a truss only sits on top. Basically, it prevents it from bending up or pulling down. It doesn't really stop that one spot on the side from bending this way and snapping.
It's just not a super strong platform, and I hate to say that goes for. I was offered the opportunity to buy. I bought that. I have an Ultimate 44, which will be here Friday. We talked about this, but I was offered the opportunity to buy a Rubicon set for my Jeep, which e-lockers
front and rear.
44 front and rear essentially. It's a 210 and 220. I turned it down, and I spent the extra money and got a 44.
So the price of those two, just clue them in
for reference. Yeah.
The price of the front and the rear axle that you were going to get from somebody who was pulling them out. He was putting in different axles in his.
They were still
JL.
The same axles, just built.
Same axles, just built
with 40s. Still.
So he was selling the stock Rubicon axles that he was pulling out. How much was he selling to you for?
35, something like that.
35. How much you pay for your axle?
We can't talk about that.
Okay.
Still
close. It
made enough sense just to do the rear axle, the real.
Because there's nothing wrong with the stock axle if you get the 44 in the rear, in the JL. There's nothing wrong with that.
The 44 rear, other than whatever noise they all make, but
nobody fucking knows what the problem is. Nobody can figure out an answer to the problem.
The Dana
now,
220 in a sport makes noise. It makes noise.
We will find out
as we pull the cover because I think the pattern's all wrong on it. So
one thing I've noticed about difference in the new JLs and JTs, I geared a couple.
You're talking about pinion
different
bearings?
ones. Pinion bearing. It's got the outer pinion bearing has dual ball bearings. Instead of just a single bearing, like a normal pinion would be.
Like a 44 on JK.
Yes. It is not like that. It's got dual ball bearings that sit on a dual race. It's got dual bumps on it. Completely different than anything I've ever seen.
That's weird.
Very different. So, in my opinion, that could possibly be what the noise is. But nobody gets rid of that. So if you gear it, you lock it, you do anything you want to it, you're still having that same bearing.
We haven't gone over that. That's another weird thing about the JLs. They don't know what the sound is, and no one's been I geared it in one way. So that's what I'm going to try and figure out here.
Well, yeah. So we'll figure that out. Because when you gear it, you use stock bearings. You just replace them, obviously, because it's good to replace anytime you do gears, anytime you do a carrier, you do anything, you replace the bearings. You do a full bearing kit, you do a full install kit with all new shims, you do everything that you're supposed to be doing.
I still think
even though it's a new bearing, that may still make noise.
I think the backlash is set to shit. And there's just like...
I mean, it could be.
Because it's a certain throttle input and everything else. Needless to say, 35s on the 186 on a JL, comfortable, actually like wheelie. Like I'm talking about, like you could use the hard and it'd be fine. It would hold together.
Yep.
Anything bigger, 37s or 40s. I'm talking about using them. So what they're doing, hard.
So what the point of using them for?
37s on a Ultimate 44, a Curry 44, a Diatrac 44, which is the 3 you can buy. I don't think there's anything else for a JL right now.
Yeah,
Fusion may make something. But as far
ultimately, you can swap it in.
Bolton 44s.
Bolton, yes.
Bolton 44s, 37s, great, all day long. I think you could rail that thing and probably never break it. A front axle. 40s, it could probably break it. You could try hard. Be a shaft, break a shaft. You would.
I think if you bounce it hard enough on 37s, you can break it.
Probably. You put that thing in first gear, low range. We'll see with gears though. Gears are going to make that thing.
That's what I'm saying is that if you don't gear it, you just throw 37s on it, like you did.
I could probably break that.
And you start railing on it, and then you can get a good crack or a good break in it.
Let's sum this up. TJ and YJ, I think they can be summed up together. 35s, built axle, you're fine.
Yep. On a 30, that front Dana30.
30.
Yeah.
And preferably...
We're not going in the rears. We know 44 is the best rear you can do.
44, 35, you need to
Most
get a 44.
of them...
If you get a 35, you need to throw the thing in the dumpster.
Yes.
JK, 37s on a 30, built comfortably.
Perfect.
JL...
Trust everything.
JL, I'm not trusting it. 35s. Like, I don't trust
35s.
35s.
Is what, in our opinion, is super comfortable. You can go hard on 35s. You don't have to worry about it.
And if you have a JL, like me, sport on 37s, and you have some video of you doing something stupid to it, by all means share, but I'm talking in like 5 years. Is that thing going to just be you're just going to, not even 5 years, it's going to break. I have no faith in that.
Whether you see it or not, there's probably a crack under there.
Something is slowly falling apart.
Yeah.
So, that's our video. Should you buy a 44 or 30? Actually, that was how we could start this. Should you buy a 44 or 30?
All right, JK, stick with the 30. JL, go to a 44.
If you have a TJ, buy a 44, because why not? You didn't pay much for the vehicle. If you have a JK, if you can get one for a reasonable price from a Rubicon, you should. If you're only going to do 37s, just build a 30. JL, I have a hard time justifying building a 186. I think it's really dumb.
Agreed.
It's a faulty housing already. Even in a Rubicon, I think it's faulty. I would not buy a JL Rubicon for that reason. Yeah. So, that's our conclusion. Appreciate you watching.
And tune in next time.
To all 10 subscribers, we appreciate you.